Innovation just ain't a buzzword in our field. It is the lifeblood of our business. Without it, you're not growing. And to the core of innovation, experimentation. So let's break it down. Think about it. Every major breakthrough in the industry, microgreen industry, whether it's growing techniques, packaging, or marketing, started with a simple experiment by somebody, somewhere, somehow. Any ideal decided to try it out. That's how we've all gotten here today, experimenting. It just isn't about talking about risk. It's about pioneering, about being the first to try something new and potential game changing. It's how we keep our business going, not just alive, but thriving. Our market is as dynamic as a microgreen grower. Consumers' preferences change tends to come and go, and what worked yesterday might not be working today or tomorrow. By experimenting, we're not just reacting these changes, we're staying ahead of the curve. We're anticipating, adapting, which is critical for any businesses that want to stay relevant and appealing. Andy, I've noticed you've changed your market over the last few years. How did you do that, and what did you change?
Yeah, so we started out doing mainly home subscriptions, and we did farmers markets and things like that. Just we started at our house because there was no farmers markets, live at the time because it was the middle of COVID.
Yeah,
So we didn't have much of a choice. We had our own little farmers market where we had to convince people to drive out to our house. That worked out really well just to get started. We did live harvesting there because we had a lot, more time between customers, things like that. Not that you can't do it in a farmers market. I know Joe does it very successfully. But it basically boiled down to the fact that we wanted to get into, bigger accounts like restaurants and grocery stores and things like that. So by the end of that first year, we ended up actually shifting to start with some grocery stores, and we got into some of those just to give us that experience. Then we took an online course, which made a world of difference, through a coaching course that we took back then. And, then we slowly started working towards growing more difficult things. We get into restaurants over time, and so we had to expand our operation out to be handling like arugula and amaranth and bull's blood and cilantro and things of that nature, and then we slowly expanded into distributors since then. So we kind of started small on purpose and worked our way up to some of the big boys, and now
yeah,
we're there. So it's definitely been a journey for sure. It's crazy to
definitely
think
the
how
right
fast
way to
it
do
all
it.
happened. Yeah,
You know,
100%.
you don't want to go after the big boys at first because they are challenging. As we're learning, as we're getting more and more into that,
Yeah.
be a challenging thing to do with. It could really stagnate your business. It's going to take months to get into a distributor, even once they say, "Hey, we want you." It could take.
Yep.
I know Andy's probably been 4 months messing with one. We're
Yeah.
2 months in on one, so it takes
Yep.
time. Uh, and if that's all you're counting on in the beginning, you ain't got no money coming in. It's going to be hard to do. So
Yeah, yeah. The one that we're working on now, we started it in May. So I don't know what's it now, November.
November,
So it's been
yeah,
a bit
6 months,
beyond the fact that it's a massive amount of paperwork that you have to fill out to even become a vendor.
yeah,
It's still it's just getting back and forth with them and getting in the door and figuring out what they want to get, how often they want to get it. And it sounds easy, but it's a massive operation that they're running. I mean, they're pushing in and out millions of dollars worth of stuff every single year. Just recently talked to one a couple weeks ago. They're a $60 million company that they do. And it's just produce. That's all they're doing is getting produce in, and they're making $60 million in gross sales every
yeah,
year, which is crazy. So obviously they got a lot more going on than to worry about little tiny microgreen grower like me. So I got to make them, understand that we're important and get in front of the right guys and get them to make the right decisions. So that's the hard part.
definitely,
It takes a lot of time.
yes, definitely. We've noticed pretty big increase in demand overall, especially with the health consciousness of grocery shoppers over the years. And about a year ago, CBS aired that segment called "The Long and Short of Microgreens." I don't know if you guys even seen that. And that week at the farmers market, we noticed a lot of people coming up asking us questions about our microgreens and greens in general, their health benefits, and that's been a trend that I think has stayed around. Obviously, with that was a big shift that we did a couple years ago. We went into the grocery stores, and now with that health conscious and everything else, people are buying the microgreens now in the grocery store all the time. So that's been a huge change for our business that we pivoted at the right time. This being just ahead of that curve, and not really knowing that we were, and that's where we went to, and then that came out, and that really changed our business when that happened. So be
Yeah.
in the right place, the right time.
Yeah, and
Sure.
literally, I had a great example of that last week. I was visiting a friend of mine's cafe in Philly, and in walks a guy who's a sales rep for a local distributor. I was like, "You got to be kidding me!" So I got his card. We talked for a bit, and now I'm working on getting to those guys. So it's just you never know. Always be selling. So I always
Yep.
tell people.
Always, you're always selling. Wearing
Yep.
a simple shirt around with your name on it, people are going to look at it. You don't know who else is out there that you don't know. They might not have the shirt on, but they see your shirt and like, hey, we've been looking for a microgreen grower. Are
Yep.
you doing distributors? And then you say yes, even if you're not. Uh, the answer is always
Yeah.
yes, and then you
Yep.
figure it out.
Yep. That's
uh,
it.
so simple things like that can go a long way. So we always wear our merch out wherever we're going. Having the right polo on when you're going to places, a t-shirt, depending on where you're going and stuff. Merch is a big driver in that.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm
but let's
definitely
talk.
bad at that.
Yes, got to do that,
Yep.
Andy. Get your merch going.
Yeah, I got to get better shirts. That's the big problem.
Yeah. So let's talk about product development and experimenting with new varieties, flavors, blends that can set your business apart. Imagine introducing a new flavor combination that no one's ever tasted before. A variety both visually stunning and naturally superior. That just isn't about growing microgreens. It's about crafting an experience of a product that captures the imagination, curiosity, and taste buds of your customers. That can be huge. I know, Andy, you're currently experimenting with some new varieties and combinations. What has worked for you?
Yeah, so cantaloupe, we've been growing it for a little while, but cantaloupe's been a really big seller for us. Just it was kind of a new thing that, having a fruit microgreen, where people were really kind of blown away by that. And unfortunately, a lot of other people have picked up on it too. And the seed's really hard to get right now because of that. So if you're thinking about getting into cantaloupe, just wait a couple months because you can't
Yes.
find seed anywhere at the moment. But that was a great one for us to add. It's a little bit tougher to grow because you have to use heat mats and keep it at a higher temperature during germination, but it's really not the end of the world. And then from there, I mean, it's really been more just creating mixes, that we found restaurants really enjoy. So those have been working out great. We created a new mix earlier this year. We've been selling a ton of it. Distributors are picking it up. They're replacing the California-driven mix that every distributor's getting with this mix that we set up, which is really good. It's way more colorful, has way more flavor to it, and obviously lasts a whole lot longer. So that's been working out fantastic. And then once we get out of here in a bigger space, we're going to start opening up even more, getting into like nasturtium and
Yes.
growing a lot more cilantro and things like that we haven't really played around with too much yet. But it's definitely on our list. So we're looking forward to that.
Awesome.
Just don't want to
Uh,
overwhelm my employees.
yeah, little by little, little by little.
Yeah. Yep.
Speaking of cilantro, we're in the process of finishing up the cilantro video, so make
Nice.
sure you stay tuned to the channel for that. That's going to be a good one. We've had great success with growing cilantro the way we've grown it, so stay tuned for that one coming out soon. The key is calculating experiments, starting small, like we just talked about, testing new varieties in controlled portion in your setup, monitoring your growth and yield. You want to keep track of all that. Response to conditions, what was the temperatures, what was the humidity, what was all that stuff when you were growing it. It's not just about going all in on a whim and telling a chef, yeah, I can grow that, I'll get it to you. You've never grown it before, you don't know, don't do that.
Yeah.
Be careful evaluating the potentials and scaling up responsibly, minimizing waste by using these trials as a learning experience no matter the outcome. It may not work the first time, do it a different way, change it out, do some more research, watch some more YouTube videos, whatever, and then figure out if you can change your practice just a little bit for your environment. And then there's problem solving. This is what I was just talking about. In our line of work, we're facing challenges daily, from pest control to climate control to issues, packaging problems. Sometimes the methods we've learned in the past just don't cut it anymore. You move environments. That may not work in the new environment. You move from your house to a warehouse to a bigger space. You move from the shed into your house, from the basement to the garage. It's all going to be different. It's going to change the way you're going to grow. So these experiments are highly important while you're doing these moves before you just fully commit. Become most of the powerful tool you can have in your business is this. Trying new approaches that may even something a little bit unconventional can lead to effective, efficient solutions that you might discover otherwise. So you might discover just a little bit of changing the seeding density on something might get better yield. You might go down in like sunflower seed yield, and you might get better yield planting less seeds than planting more seeds. It doesn't work on everything, but it does work a lot with sunflowers. They get a little too overcrowded. You get a lot of undergrowth, stuff like that you can experiment with. Andy, I know you've been problem solving with a new farm tool in your thing that
Yeah.
you just had on your Facebook. You want to talk about
Yep.
that?
Yeah, so it's we've been playing around with this. Basically, it's a food safe soil press. If you're in my Facebook group, you guys have seen it posted. I posted it the other day, and it's been something I've been playing around with for probably about a year. Just kind of figuring out the best idea, the best way to actually implement it. So luckily I have a friend of mine who's an architect, and he works with, CAD and all that stuff all day long. So had him draw up a design, and we came up with a different methodology as far as like how handles are placed on there, to make sure that we can adjust them in either direction. So depending on how, if your trays are more wide and you're pressing soil versus, tall and you're pressing soil, it could be up here, it could be here. So it's just very ergonomic, very simple to use, and I've seen too many people using pieces of plywood and other really disgusting things to press their soil with, that ultimately in the long run, that's not going to do you any good. If you're trying to go for any kind of gap certification, they're going to laugh that tool out of the building, because it's a gross thing. I mean, it's getting wet every single day. There's all kinds of crevices for things to live in. Obviously, there's other ways to do it. This is just something I've been wanting to do for a while. And if you guys decide you want one, awesome. If not, I'm not worried about it. At least I'll have them. But I want to make them available to the general public. So if you guys are really, keen on food safety like I am, you'll have this as an option where it's all food safe material. It's a aluminum plate, which is food safe, based on the actual type of aluminum that it is, and then the handles are stainless steel, which are a food safe thing as well. And then the screws even are actually food safe. And we're actually researching different food safe thread lockers as well. So the actual screws can have food safe thread lockers. They won't come undone very easy. So it'll just keep everything together really nicely. So, but yeah, we're still going through the process. I mean, we just got the version we got the other day. It's actually a little bit too small now, unfortunately, because we did find that bootstrap shallow trays versus the deeper trays, the actual bottom radius all the way around is smaller on the deep trays than it is on the shallow trays. So when we got the original version, it fit great in the shallow trays, and then it didn't fit all the way down in the deep trays. So we had them cut it down to the deep tray size. Now it's way too small for the shallow trays. So we got to find that happy medium, where it's going to work for everything. But obviously, it doesn't have to physically go to the bottom.
But if you're
So
using the deep trays correctly, you don't have to go that far down. So it's
exactly,
pretty
yeah,
close to
yep,
the same
yep.
size.
Yeah. What we were trying to avoid, if it worked, which obviously it didn't, is if you push all the way down for whatever reason, we don't want the tool to get stuck in the tray. So that was kind of the thought process. If they can go all the way down, it's not a big deal, but we're definitely going to find some kind of a happy medium. Because obviously, if you have growing medium in there at all, you're not going to be going all the way to the bottom anyway. And if you're, so that's, yeah, hopefully, exactly. Using way too less dirt, if that's the case.
Yes.
So, but yeah, we've been toying around with that. So it's just been something extra project to play around with again, but it's something we wanted for our farm for a while. And I was able to luckily find a place that can manufacture it at least a semi decent scale. So I just got to get it totally good to go, get the right size, which is going to cost more money, unfortunately, to have another one made.
Yep.
But it is what it is. I want to make sure it's perfect.
Yeah, it's the joys of doing it all. You have to play around with it and figure out the right things, right? When you're developing something new. So
Yeah, I mean, this is literally what you would consider new product development.
yeah,
Nothing like this is out there, so we got to make it work and figure out all the little nuances with it. So it's pretty cool.
awesome.
It's fun. Just a fun
Yeah,
little side project.
just another thing with experiment. So within your own business, experimenting with what you're doing and everything else, can lead to this. So obviously, experimenting with growing and methods and everything else isn't going to cost you what it's going to cost you to build a new product.
Yeah,
It costs you pennies really to experiment in this. So it doesn't really cost you much to experiment and find out if something's going to work. So definitely experiment as you're growing your business to figure out what works best for you and what you could do to just improve just a little bit.